Hello everyone, and welcome to Sound of Hope News. I'm Liam O'Neill, and here are your June 1st China briefs. Taiwanese commemorate June 4th, while no public commemorations allowed in Hong Kong. Interview with World Uyghur Congress spokesperson following the UN's visit to Xinjiang. China's bid for wider presence among Pacific islands fails to meet consensus. As the 33rd anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre on June 4th approaches, Hong Kong will discontinue holding any commemorative activities for the first time. This is a dramatic shift. Until recently, every year, tens of thousands of Hong Kongers gathered for vigils to memorialize the 1989 killing of students and workers by the CCP's military. The recent passage of Hong Kong's new national security law means these gatherings will no longer be tolerated. The law has also prompted the removal of several permanent art installations and museum displays throughout the island. Earlier this year, the University of Hong Kong covered a June 4th slogan with cement. In Hong Kong's public libraries, 57 books about the Tiananmen Square massacre are no longer available for borrowing. One well-known art piece is called The Pillar of Shame, a sculpture by Danish artist Mr. UYGHUR. It commemorates the several thousand people who died that night and was previously installed at Hong Kong University until late last year, when authorities had it removed. Similar actions were taken in at least 5 other universities. It reflects that in a few years no one will know what happened there, the sculptor told AFP. He had tried to send the Pillar of Shame abroad, but the university refused to help, and no moving companies dared to intervene either. They had told him that it's too complicated and dangerous. But on May 30th, the Association of Chinese Democracy Colleges announced that a reconstruction of the Pillar of Shame will be unveiled on Taiwan's Democracy Avenue, which is near the Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall in Taipei. Zheng Jianyuan, chairman of the association, said that the reconstruction is a symbolic victory. That Taiwanese were able to raise the funds and see the project through means that Taiwan is ready to continue Hong Kong's legacy of June 4th commemoration, he said. This year's anniversary will be filled with similar themes as in previous years, but will also have many Hong Kong elements added in. On May 25th, just as Michelle Bachelet, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, was visiting Xinjiang, several international media released the Xinjiang police files. Obtained by unidentified hackers, these files evidence the genocidal policies being carried out in northwest China. Sound of Hope was able to interview the spokesperson for the World Uyghur Congress, Mr. Dilshat Rishit. He said the exposure has once again proven to the international community that the Chinese government has long covered up the planned, purposeful, and systematic genocide that targets the Uyghur. Many rights groups and governments have strongly criticized UN Commissioner Bachelet for engaging in what many call a staged visit. The leaked documents reveal that persecution of the Uyghurs involves joint action across multiple CCP agencies. Mr. Rishit said that the international community, quote, should adopt a high degree of coordination to hold accountable the executors and participants of this anti-humanity and genocidal policy against Uyghurs. Experts estimate that at least 1 million Uyghur Muslims are held in concentration camp-style facilities where they are subjected to torture, sterilization, and forced labor. The recent leak shows evidence of victims as young as 15 and as old as 73. China and 10 Pacific nations failed to reach consensus on a sweeping new agreement that would have covered everything from security to fisheries, as some nations expressed concern that the proposal could threaten regional stability. On Monday, May 30th, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi was in Fiji to co-host a virtual meeting with the foreign ministers from the 10 island nations, including Fiji, Solomon Islands, Samoa, and Papua New Guinea. His visit to Fiji was part of a diplomatic tour expanding Beijing's influence in the areas of security, economy, and politics of the South Pacific. Last week, China sent a draft communique and a 5-year action plan to the invited nations. It showed Beijing was seeking a sweeping regional trade and security agreement that included topics such as training local police, involvement in cybersecurity, marine mapping, and generally gaining greater access to natural resources on land and in the water. According to Reuters, the draft communique was opposed by at least one of the nations, the Federated States of Micronesia. Other nations either wanted amendments or a delay on the decision, said an official from one Pacific country. The Secretary General of the Pacific Islands Forum, Henry Puna, urged China at the meeting to work with the region on its priorities, which were namely climate change and COVID-19 recovery. Fiji's Prime Minister, Bainimarama, said, "As always, we put consensus first among our countries throughout any discussion on new regional agreements." Beijing's strategic goals for wider security ties has caused concerns among member nations of the Quad. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that he had sent his foreign minister to Fiji last week because Australia needed to step up efforts in the Pacific. "We need to respond to this," he said, because China is seeking to increase its influence in the region of the world where Australia has been the security partner of choice since the Second World War. That was from Australia's ABC. Last month, the US, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand expressed concern about the Solomon Islands-China Security Pact, saying it had regional consequences and could lead to a Chinese military presence close to Australia. And that's all we have for you today. Thanks for tuning in to Sound of Hope. Please click like and subscribe for more China Briefs. We'll see you next time.